Okay, I guess are we already live on YouTube? Okay, I see. See that a couple of people are joining on Zoom. Are we already live? Sorry, I just make sure that the YouTube stream is muted or we end up having an echo. All right, so welcome everybody. Those who are joining on Zoom, it's great to have you. And if you are watching the YouTube stream, a very good evening to you as well. I'll be doing my best to monitor the chat on both YouTube as well as Zoom. But yeah, if you are watching on YouTube and you're also in the Discord community, feel free to just go to the announcements channel and find the Zoom link and join over Zoom as well. Yeah, cool. All right. So as I announced earlier, the next week's live stream, because right now the flow assignments are ongoing. So we won't be able to discuss those assignment problems until the deadline is done, right? So, so today's session is kind of a bit of a break from the regular, and we decided that, we'll try and see if we can loop in a special guest to make this interesting for everyone. And I'm just very happy to share that we will be joined shortly by Harshan Sharma, who is a competitive programmer from IIT Delhi and has a lot of very cool videos up on his YouTube channel. And I hope he'll be sharing some of his CP experiences with us, as well as maybe we'll actually get down to solving a problem ourselves. So that should be really interesting. So who is participating in, there is, I think, a ABC beginner contest that happened today. Did anybody participate in that? It's probably wrapping up now. And I guess Kickstart has also started. So did anybody participate in, I guess, the Kickstart round? That was a while ago, I think, but I guess there was some discussion in Discord about some people wanting to participate in that. So just curious if anybody who's joining us on the call today has participated in a recent contest. Okay, Mahendra Pal says yes. So which contest were you participating in, Mahendra? And hi, Vijay, good to see you. Just says failed. Yeah, okay, that's a perfectly common experience and nothing to worry about. Hi, Prabhash, good evening. Sainath, I think you should just feel free to participate at any point of time. Usually in most contests, at least the first couple of problems are like accessible. Okay, I think Harisam may be able to join us now. So let me just make sure we get him set up. How about those of you who are on Zoom? Any of you participated in a contest recently? And if yes, what was your experience like? Okay, hi to Ravindra and Rahul on YouTube. Thanks for joining. Okay, so I think Harshan Sharma is here, so we'll just wait for him to connect to audio. Hi, Harshan. It looks like you are in and you're connected. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hello.
Okay, hi. Yeah, thanks so much for coming in. So you just finished a contest, is that right?
Yeah, actually, there was a programming contest on a website known as atcoder.jp that was going on. So,
Right.
yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Okay. So yeah, I'm absolutely delighted that you could join us this weekend. Thanks for coming in. Maybe let me just begin by quickly introducing you, although we've done that over the announcement, but just in case anyone's not seen the announcement, let me just say that we're very happy to have Harisam Sharma with us this weekend. He's a BTech third year student with the Electrical Engineering Department at IIT Delhi and an incoming product intern at Sprinkler. He's been doing CP for more than a year, is candidate master at Codeforces and is among the top 120 coders on the platform from India. And he runs a very successful YouTube channel covering CP topics. And you really should check it out. The exposition is really nice. I've enjoyed listening to a few of your DP videos and probably a couple of others. So it's really cool to have you here. Thanks for joining in. And the plan, just so the audience knows, the plan is to kind of have this as a free-flowing, open-ended discussion for the first maybe 15-20 minutes, or just depending on the questions that we get. So think of it as an AMA coming from Harisam. You can ask him anything you want about the CP journey, or maybe something more specific. If you have a question, feel free to shoot it in the chat, or if you're on Zoom, maybe also feel free to unmute yourselves and ask. And after this, maybe we will just maybe just try and solve a problem together or something like that. We were thinking of solving a problem based on graphs, but we'll see how that goes. So yeah, no pressure. So there is a YouTube live stream link. So I will try to just monitor it for any questions and relay them to you through the chat. But to begin with, if anybody has a question in the chat, we can begin from there. And maybe just while we are waiting, just to get things going, let me begin with a question that comes up rather a lot, which is how important is CP, do you think, for things like landing internships or job opportunities? How much has it helped you in your personal experience, and how much do you think it's necessary? This is like one of the most frequently asked questions that comes in from folks who participate in this course. So do you want to take that?
Right. Okay. So, as far as the importance of CP in landing jobs is concerned, I think CP is not 100% necessary. But to be honest, if you are very proficient in CP and if you have done CP diligently for a few months, then I think it becomes like solving problems which are asked in interviews, as well as the problems which are asked in the open-ended assessments for companies. That kind of becomes a cakewalk, right? So according to me, the thing is that CP is not necessary. You can do basic data structures and algorithms from websites like LeetCode and InterviewBit. But at the same time, if you are doing CP, then your chances of getting selected definitely get a boost, and it becomes really easy to solve problems and crack the interviews, right? So according to me, CP is not necessary, but if you are doing CP, then it kind of guarantees that you can get at least a basic level company. And if you are doing CP diligently for a few months, then I'm almost sure that you can solve any problem which will be asked in the interviews of companies like Amazon and like FAANG companies like Amazon, Microsoft, etc. All these companies ask problems which are like not really difficult. So if you are through with CP and if you actually give contest on websites like Codeforces, then things become really easy, right? So this is my point of view. CP is not necessarily, you can just do basic data structure algorithm from LeetCode, but if you are doing CP, then that definitely gives your chances a big boost, right? So yeah, that would be my take on this.
Okay, yeah, I think, that's it's a super balanced take. So the summary is that although it's not necessary, if it's something that you're possibly doing anyway, or if you choose to do it, it ends up making the whole process easier, but it's not an absolute necessity from your perspective, which yeah, I think which is more or less the messaging that we have also had. So I'm glad that that's aligned. And the next question that comes up a lot is, what's a good choice of programming language if you really do want to get into CP? So a lot of people come in saying that they have had some experience dabbling with Python, for instance, because that's a very popular choice of a first language in a programming course, let's say in school, or even in college for that matter. I think even at IIT we teach Python when we teach Programming 101 in the first year. So that's by far a very popular language that people are comfortable with. But I think there's a sense that in CP, Python is too slow. For someone starting out, do you think it's worth the effort to change to C++ right away, or is it okay to get some practice with Python and then pick up C++ along the way? What do you think about that?
Okay, so first thing is that you should definitely pick up C++ like before practice or after practice, but at the end of the day, you should pick it up, because if you just continue using Python, then you can land in a lot of troubles, because Python is really slow for competitive programming. And the thing is that in every problem in CP, there is a time limit, and that time limit does not vary depending on programming languages mostly. So a guy who is coding in C++ gets an edge over a guy who is coding in Python, because the time limit is the same for both of them, right? So definitely you should change to C++ somewhere along the way in your journey. And another big advantage of C++ is that it has a standard template library, which is like super duper useful when you are solving problems in a contest. It makes your implementation really neat and clean. And stuff like C++ STL really don't exist in Python, actually. And even if they do, only the very high rated people who have years and years of experience, they actually know about it. So other than that, if you are using Python, then it is almost sure that you have to implement everything which is actually already implemented in C++ STL on your own. So yeah, the thing is that you should definitely prefer C++ when you are learning competitive programming. And talking about when you should transition, well, I think it's enough to, like, it is okay if you are solving some easy problems in Python. Like if you are solving some problems which are rated less than or equal to 1,000, and it is your first 2 to 3 weeks doing CP, I think it is okay even if you code it in Python. But according to me, you should switch to C++ in the first chance that you get. So like if I were a beginner, then I would and if I were a beginner who had knowledge of Python and no knowledge of C++, then I would first learn C++ and then start CP.
Okay, that's very interesting. So you think I guess the transition, the cost of transitioning, or the effort spent in learning to transition is totally worth it in a CP context.
Definitely.
And I noticed that Java is also reasonably popular among among people who do CP. So between C++ and Java, would you have a recommendation?
Yeah. So Java is somewhat popular, but I think 1 in around 25 people use Java for CP.
Right.
And the reason for that again is Java is definitely faster than Python, but it is still around 2.5 to 3 times slower than C++. And also there are a lot of other issues with Java, such as one of the issues which I can tell is that the sort function in Java STL actually can take O of n square time in the worst case. And that almost a lot of times leads to failing in system tests for a lot of people and things like that, right? So there is a very famous competitive programmer known as Second Thread. He also has a YouTube channel. He is a grandmaster and he always codes in Java. And according to him also, like he also says that Java is a really bad choice for doing competitive programming, and he himself is a grandmaster, right? So yeah, you can say that C++ will be better than Java for sure.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I think the Java question also came in from the YouTube stream. So I hope this addresses it. There's a couple of questions in the Zoom chat box. Maybe we can take those. So maybe the first. I can take the last one first. So tell us about your journey and how your programming skills got better, and about your timeline and maybe some resources to take on.
All right. So about my journey, I started doing CP seriously around November 2020, when I was in my third semester of college, and the classes were being held online, so there was a lot of time for me to explore different things. So that is why I started a bit late. I was doing some development and machine learning in the second and third semester, but finally I started with CP at the end of the third semester, right? So that is when I started doing it seriously. And obviously, when you start, obviously you are not very good when you start, and you learn things slowly. And that is what happened with me. So if you know about my Codeforces profile, I'll just write it down in the chat box. It is Sharma Harisam. And Neeldhara, can I share my screen right now?
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead. I think you're co-host, so it should be possible for you to share your screen.
Okay. So is my screen visible?
Yes, yes. I think we can see your browser. Yeah.
All right, all right. Right. So this is my Codeforces profile. So there is a lot of data being displayed here, and it will be better if I talk in terms of data. So this is a region in early 2020 when I actually started doing CP, but I wasn't really serious. So I mostly do not count this time. So when I started doing CP seriously was around November 2020. And as you can see, my rating went down very quickly. So I reached the lowest possible ranking ever, which is a newbie. And if you are a newbie right now, then I must say that it is okay. Everyone has a stage, and success is always gradual, right? So yeah, as you can see, I improved very gradually. My progress was really, really slow, but at the end of the day, it is all worth it. So talking about my journey, in the initial days, I always used to get ranks between 5,000 to 10,000, as you can see. And then at that point of time, I didn't even have knowledge about basic things like C++ STL. So I didn't know what was a set, what was a multi-set in C++. And so consequently, my ranks were not very good at that time. And then I slowly, gradually started learning things like C++, STL, then binary search, and and dynamic programming and things like that. Before that, I only used to think greedily and try to apply a greedy method to solve all the problems. And that, of course, didn't work out so well for me. So as you can see, after around 3 to 4 months, I reached the rank of specialist. And at that point of time, I had basic knowledge about binary search, dynamic programming, and C++ STL, and that is all that is required to reach this level. So I think there was also a question which asked about which topics you should learn. So I'll answer both of them together here. So if you are aiming to reach the blue region here, then I think the topics that you should be familiar with are basic binary search for answer, and basic dynamic programming, and also C++ STL, of course. So yeah, after around 3 to 4 months, I was able to reach this mark of specialist. And then again, after struggling for around 3 to 4 more months, I was finally able to reach this mark of expert. And as you can see, the ranks also started improving gradually. From 10,000, I jumped to 2,000, 3,000. And in the contest in which I became expert, I still remember that day. That was like a few days before my birthday. So I got a rank under 1,000 for like the first or the second time. So that was a very good day, and that was a very memorable day for me. So yeah. So after 6 to 7 months of starting CP, I actually became an expert. That means a rating greater than 1,600. And after that, the progress was again really, really slow. So at this point of time, around September end to October, I started my YouTube channel, and I started posting solutions to Codeforces rounds, and sometimes doing screencasts of contests which were unrated for me, mostly Division 3 contests. So this was around September. And after that, the YouTube channel served as a very major motivation for me to improve my rating. And the biggest reason for that is that around 2,500 people are following me on Codeforces. So in every contest that I give, like, there are 2,500 people who are looking at how I'm performing. So that gives me a lot of pressure, but at the same time, that gives me a lot of motivation to perform. So yeah, after around 5 to 6 months of being an expert and getting very close to a candidate master, as you can see, 1889, and then falling back to less than 1700. And these things happened a lot of time with me. But after a lot of ups and downs in the last contest of 2021, that is goodbye 2021, I was actually able to finally reach my goal of becoming a candidate master. So yeah, that was again a very memorable contest for me, because in the first 1.5 hour, I was like really lagging behind, and my expected rating change was around -70 to -80. And then I made a comeback, and I was actually able to get a positive delta and reach the candidate master rank. So that was again a very memorable contest for me here. So yeah, in the last contest of 2021, I finally became a candidate master. And from there on, I still continue to practice daily and learn new topics. And I'm hoping to reach even greater levels in the future. I don't have any plans of quitting CP anytime soon. I am planning to continue doing CP for at least a few years. And yeah, so that is the plan. And I think in a few months, I would be able to reach the next rank, and then I will continue to learn new topics. And yeah, so this is pretty much about my journey. So I'll stop sharing my screen now. So yeah, I think this is enough for my journey.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. That was fascinating. And even though I think you use the word slow several times, that really looks like overall, overall a really, really impressive sort of timeline in which you managed to kind of scale up the ranks, so to speak. So to everyone who is watching, I would, this is just a bit of a caution to not perhaps worry about comparing yourself. When you see a different profile, I think hopefully you're getting a lot of inspiration from this. But if you have spent more than a year doing CP, and if you haven't experienced this kind of growth, that really doesn't mean anything. So just keep at it, and I guess compare yourself with where you started, and as long as you're making those incremental improvements, and you're pushing further and you're learning new things, I think that deserves to be celebrated. Yeah. So I just
Yeah, that is true. But actually, I was saying slow because, I study in IIT Delhi, and the people here are actually like, there are a few of my friends who became master in the first year. And so, like, I always used to compare myself with those people. And that is why I used to think that I am really slow. So,
I
yeah, so I really apologize for saying that. But yeah.
No, not at all. I mean, I just, as I said, yeah, I mean, for example, what you just said about maybe comparing yourself with people who are faster than you, and then taking that as a source of motivation and inspiration, I think is a great attitude. Just a little. I just want to be careful about somebody, feeling like they didn't make it fast enough. So that was just a little bit of additional caution there.
Right.
But yeah, of course, I see where you're coming from. But no, that was really, really extremely impressive. I guess, maybe you addressed it partially already, but in terms of resources, of course, you are putting out, some great content on your channel. And I guess there are a few other YouTubers, who have been very generous with sort of sharing their CP experiences and knowledge. But did you follow a specific sort of set of courses somewhere, or did you follow a book, or was it a little more ad hoc? What was your style of training?
Right. So as far as sources are concerned, the one gold mine that I wanted to talk about is Codeforces blogs. So Codeforces blogs are really, really educational. You want to study any topic, you are guaranteed to find a very amazing Codeforces blog written by a grandmaster somewhere around the website. So Codeforces blogs are a very good resource. And sometimes these blogs are too advanced. So for learning things like binary search and dynamic programming and segment trees and stuff like that, another very important and very useful resource, which I'm sure a lot of people already know, is a website known as cpalgorithms.com. And personally, I have learned more than 70% of the things that I know from that particular website. So a lot of credit goes to that. So yeah, cpalgorithms.com is the ultimate gold mine if you want to learn about concepts which are used in competitive programming. And another very good resource is the edu section in Codeforces. So there is this edu section in Codeforces where you will find video tutorials to a lot of concepts, for example, two pointers, binary search, segment trees, and stuff like that. And these tutorials are prepared by professors from ITMO University. And these professors themselves have been like international and legendary grandmasters. So their tutorials are again really nice. So yeah, these three are the most important resources which I follow. And of course, there are Geeks for Geeks blogs, which again are really good. So yeah, these are the 3-4 main resources that I followed. And I did not do any course. So I never took a course from Coding Ninjas, let's say. So yeah, that is it. I didn't do a course, but if you are doing a course, then I won't say it is bad, because the feedback that I have got from people is that these courses again are really good. So it is more or less up to you how you want to do it. So these courses again are good. That is what I'll say.
Right. I guess Codeforces EDU is also a lot of it is structured like courses, right? As in
Right.
kind of take up specific topics and there is a gradation from easy to hard, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
So there is a set of video tutorials, and alongside it, there is a set of problems that you can solve.
Right. Yeah, I think yeah, I definitely can second that recommendation. In fact, I think in this course we have a section on DSU, and that's also covered in Codeforces EDU. So we just keep
Right.
pointing back to it for extra practice. It's really well done. So I think that addresses the question that Bhushan had asked, and also Rajat had asked earlier. I think in terms of what should I do to gain knowledge and improve rating, I think kind of got addressed in this discussion. I guess there are a couple of other questions. So Ajinkya in the YouTube stream is asking, should we learn first all the major algorithms and data structures and then participate in contests, or should we do both simultaneously? So do you want to address that?
Yeah. So you should never do something like learning everything and then participating in contests, because again, the success that you will get in the contest will be gradual. And I recommend participating in contests and forgetting about your ratings at all. I know it is a very difficult thing, but I personally do not recommend learning all the data structures and then participating in a contest. uh, the way I did it was I just started blindly participating in contests. And as you can see in my profile, in the initial contest I was actually able to solve 0 or 1 problems, never more than that. And so it is also fine if you are just able to solve 1 problem, but I don't recommend learning everything and then taking part in contests. So my take on it would be to parallelly learn concepts and solve problems. And when you are not able to solve problems, you will kind of simultaneously and automatically learn these topics by solving the problems. So that is my take, right? So if you can't solve problems in a contest, look at the editorial, and you will most probably learn something new from it and add that to your arsenal. So that is what I will suggest.
Right. Yeah, I think I can wholeheartedly second that because the learning never ends. I guess DSA, even elementary DSA is so vast that there's just always a temptation to learn more. And if you wait for that to finish, then
Definitely.
that might just end up taking forever. Also, participating in contests is like a really cool reinforcement for the things that you learn, and it's pretty cool to be able to apply something that you have learned and actually get some bit of a adrenaline rush from that, and that keeps you motivated to learn more, I guess. So that has
Yeah, and the first problem is mostly like it never requires something that you explicitly have to learn. So
exactly.
even if you don't know anything, you can participate in contests, and there is a high chance that you still will be able to solve at least something.
Right. And another related question that kind of comes up a lot in general is when you're practicing, whether in contests, well, maybe more outside of contests, when you're practicing offline, should you, or maybe just what's been your style? Do you like take a topic and then practice a lot of problems related to that topic to kind of hone your skill in it? Or do you take up problems and just be oblivious to the topic but just maybe solve problems in a certain difficulty range which is say just outside your comfort zone or at the limit of your comfort zone, and that's how you expand your comfort zone? So basically, is it technique and topic based, or is it difficulty based, or is it some other method altogether?
Right. So I will definitely recommend solving problems based on difficulty and not topics. Because once you already know what the topic is, then you kind of get partial towards it, right? So like you are not really you don't really apply your brains towards all directions. For example, if you already know that a particular problem is DP, as soon as you will read a problem, you will start thinking about DP. And that is not how contests work. In a contest, you don't really know which problem requires which topic, right? So I will definitely never recommend just taking a topic and solving a lot of problems based on it. What I will recommend instead is that when you learn a new topic, you solve 3 to 4 problems on it and get comfortable with it. But once you are doing practice in general, get back to solving random problems which are at the brink of your comfort zone and which are around 100 to 200 greater than what your current level is. Right. So that is a very good question. And this is something that I actually used to do before. So what I used to do was I used to apply tags on problems. For example, sometimes I used to apply BP tag or binary search tag, and that never really paid off for me. So a lot of high rated people also recommend doing this, that you solve random problems. And when you're learning new topics, definitely solve 2 to 3 problems based on that particular topic. But once you are back to practicing, get back to solving random problems.
Okay, yeah, I think that's great advice. So, yeah, so I guess when you're learning a new concept for the first time, you might just want to build some basic confidence in being able to sort of maybe execute a particular kind of algorithm. Like I think this week we are doing flows, for example. So you may want to practice flow-based problems just to the extent of being confident that if you finally identified that a problem was a flow-based problem in a contest, then at least the part of implementing it would be something that you don't have to worry about based on this kind of practice. But having gained that basic confidence, then I think when you're practicing in general, it's better to be oblivious to the topic, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, makes sense. Also, I guess maybe this is the last question that I see in the chat from Amaya, I guess, who is in the last year, the end of his first semester, and is interested in app development, but also wants to explore CP. So, would you have any advice on, it's, I guess, a matter of choosing a track, I suppose. So since you were mentioning that you were also exploring, I guess, web development and ML and stuff. So what is it that drew you towards CP and helped you make that choice? Maybe that would be helpful.
Okay. Right. So as you are currently in your first semester right now, I think you don't need to choose a path right away. So what you can do instead is you can divide your time and you can do CP and you can also explore development. I also know a lot of people who are pros in CP as well as in development. So there is this guy called Codemaster CPP who himself has his YouTube channel. So he is a real pro in development, and he is also a candidate master on Codeforces, and he does both of them simultaneously. And I also have a lot of friends who are master on Codeforces and also have an amazing GitHub profile. So it is not that you always have to choose something. And since you are just in your first year, I think it is a good enough time for you to explore. So my advice for you will be to divide your time and divide your time efficiently so that you can give a few hours, like 1 or 2 hours to development, or 1 or 2 hours to CP on a lot of days, like not every day, but around 4 to 5 days a week. So it is not very difficult right now because you are in your first semester. So there is no rush for you and you don't really need to make a choice right away. So yeah, you can divide your time and you can do both of them. And it is also possible that you like both of them. And in that case, you can continue doing both of them. And as I already said, there have been examples of people who are great in both these fields. So yeah, you don't really have to make a choice. And right now, my advice for you would be to explore both these fields.
Right, just segueing from this idea of people being versatile and good at multiple things. So it's clear that you are also managing and juggling a lot of balls in the air in terms of, you're doing your coursework and preparing for possibly interviews, since you said that you had an incoming internship, and you're also doing your YouTube channel. And I think it's a very time consuming thing to be able to actually prep this kind of video material, and you're doing it fairly extensively, and you're also doing contests so regularly. So what's your sort of time management strategy? Like, how do you, what's your approach? Are you like super systematic and organized about it, or are you more of a go with the flow sort of a person?
Well, I try to be organized. That is something that I can say. Obviously, I'm not always successful, but while going to sleep, actually, what I do is when I'm trying to sleep, I just make sure I try to make a mental list of things that I have to achieve the next day. And then I simply try to achieve it. But if I'm somehow not able to do a few things which were on my list, then I still don't make a big deal about it. And I enjoy life. And sometimes Like sometimes when I have something to do and some friends of mine call me to, like, right now I'm living in my hostel, and a lot of times just friends make simultaneous and impromptu plans, and I mostly always say yes to them. And I feel like there is no need to stop enjoying life at this point of time. So yeah, I try to be organized, but at the same time I try to enjoy a lot of things. So yeah, you don't really have to be very rigid, and it's definitely a good idea to make plans about your day, but it is also okay if you are sometimes not able to follow these plans, right? So yeah, I try to be organized, but I am not always successful.
Okay, that's no, I think that's a great approach. I think one should value the importance of also just being in a happy frame of mind. If you aren't, like you said, enjoying life a little bit, then I think it also affects your work if you're overly rigid, I guess, because then it can feel a bit draining and stressful. So those impromptu breaks, I think actually even serve a purpose. Not that everything needs to have a purpose, but I think it indirectly probably actually helps overall. And that's fantastic advice. So thanks. Yeah. All right. So I don't think I see any more specific questions either in the Zoom chat nor. Oh, okay. So on the stream, I think I guess there's one more question. How should I learn C++ if I know C? And how should I make the move? So for somebody who has just learned C and knows data structures and such, what's a good resource for specifically C++?
Okay, so 99% of C and C++ are just the same. So there is nothing which is included in C and which is not included in C++. So C is basically a subset of C++. So you already know a lot of things. So the things which you need to do are, you just have to switch to different input and output methods. So you have to switch from scanf, printf to C in, C out. And I think that is it. So you don't really need to do a lot of extra things. And so just switch from scanf, printf to C in, C out, and start solving problems. And when you reach a concept, when you reach a problem which you are not able to solve due to language barrier, then you will automatically learn how to do things in C++. And mostly that won't happen, because a lot of things, mostly all of the things which can be done through C can also be done through C++. So the only difference I think between C and C++ is that C++ also has object-oriented programming. So, and that is almost never used in competitive programming, right? So I think you mostly know a lot of C++ and you already know it. So just start solving problems in C++. And if you reach something which you were not able to do because of language barrier, then just learn it. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'd also probably just briefly add that if you are on the Discord for this course, there were a couple of recommendations shared in the in one of the channels for learning the STL specifically. So maybe that is one thing that you may not have encountered by learning C. And I think there are these like hour or 2 hour long tutorials which just walk you through the popular, I guess, things to know in the STL that might be helpful in a CP context, I suppose.
Yeah, so there was a 1 hour video on C++ STL, which was recently posted by Utkarsh Gupta. He is also a very famous YouTuber and also a grandmaster on Codeforces. So I will definitely recommend someone who is trying to learn C++ STL that particular video.
Right, right. So I guess that's yeah, that's probably useful. There's a question that's I think was probably sent to me by mistake as a DM. Do you recommend any particular coding platforms between say Codeforces, LeetCode, HackerRank, etc.?
Yeah, so according to me, all the CP platforms are the same: Codeforces, CodeChef, and AdCoder. These are the three platforms on which I practice, and I mostly try to never leave a contest. So my strategy is that I give contests on all the CP websites, but I mostly practice on Codeforces. So if you are practicing, then I will recommend Codeforces. But if you are doing contests, then I will recommend any website on the face of earth which has programming contests.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's amazing.
So there is
Yeah.
this website called clist.by, which lists all the upcoming contests. So what I do is I mostly follow that website, and I try to give every contest which I can make, for which I can make time.
Right. Would you say that the informatics Olympiad contests, like there are a bunch of them at the regional level and national, international levels, do they make for good sources of practice, or is the sort of the texture of those problems slightly different?
Okay, so I personally haven't solved IOI based problems, but what I have heard from my peers is that these problems are generally very, very hard. So yeah, these problems are mostly very, very hard. So I personally haven't solved these problems, so I can't really comment. But it is okay even if you don't practice these problems.
Right, right. Yeah, okay, interesting. I mean, I guess yeah, from a distance, yeah, I haven't really looked at the informatics Olympiad type of problems specifically, but I found that those problems and also maybe Google Code Jam problems sometimes tend to have a different flavor from say the other platforms that you mentioned. So I was just wondering if yeah, so maybe just sticking to some of the standard ones, like let's say in our context, maybe CodeChef and Codeforces are really popular, and also AdCoder because I think they specifically run beginner friendly contests as well. I mean, at least up to the first, let's say, 2 or 3 problems. So
Right.
I think these are good places to start, and after that, I think after some experience, I suppose everybody will evolve their own taste in terms of what platforms they want to invest their time in. And I
Right.
noticed that I guess TopCoder used to be pretty big. I wasn't sure if they kind of dropped off the radar, but I think they seem to be evolving a community of CP folks again. So is TopCoder a platform that you have engaged with at all, or?
Actually, I find the UI of TopCoder to be really, really confusing. And I am not alone in this. I have read a lot of comments on Codeforces blogs saying that the UI of TopCoder is not so good and it is really confusing. So I generally avoid giving contests on TopCoder.
Right, right. Yeah. I mean, I think they do have some great problems, and their website does
Yeah,
run.
so they have a lot of great tutorials. They have a lot of awesome blogs, and they have blogs on techniques which are not really well known. So sometimes I visit these blogs to learn about things, but I don't really do contests on TopCoder.
Right, right. Okay, cool. Also, Raghav has a question, although, yeah, I'm not sure if Raghav is online right now, but nonetheless, I think let's answer it for the record because I guess it's a common thing that comes up. So, have you ever felt frustrated during your CP journey, and how did you deal with it? If yes.
So if someone says that they have never felt frustrated while doing CP, then they are definitely lying. So the thing is that there are bad contests and there are good contests. And there have been times when my contests were so bad that I thought that, okay, just let it be. I won't do CP again and things like that. But with time, I have realized that bad contests are a part of your journey. And when you realize this after that point, it becomes really easy for you. Like now, whenever I have a bad contest, I don't even think about it. I just say, okay, if the contest was bad, then I will try to solve a lot of two problems, maybe 2 or 3 problems which I wasn't able to do, and that is it. So in the beginning it is hard. Sometimes you feel like you should quit CP when you have bad contests, and that happens to literally everyone. So the challenging part is to suck it up and just give the next contest, even if you were able to do really badly in the previous contest. So that is definitely challenging. But if you can pass a particular bar, there is a stage where you stop feeling bad from bad contests. And once you reach that stage, this feeling just vanishes and it becomes really easy for you. So yeah, in the beginning it is frustrating. It can be frustrating when you have bad contests, but the more experience you get, I think the easier it gets.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's excellent advice. I think there's a couple of other follow-up questions. I guess one was specific to starting dynamic programming. So I think you have done a few videos on dynamic programming recently, but again, are there some specific playlists or sources that you would recommend?
Right. So I would not recommend going through entire playlists. So for namesake, I can say that there is a DP playlist by Aditya Verma, and there is also a freshly prepared DP playlist by a very famous YouTuber known as Raj Vikramaditya or Striver. But I will personally not recommend going through playlists to learn topics. So what I will instead recommend is to just uh, just learn what dynamic programming is from an article or something like that, or maybe watch an introductory video on what dynamic programming is from like there is this channel called Ericto. I'm sure everyone knows who Ericto is. He is the most subscribed channel based on competitive programming. He has a lot of subscribers and his channel is around 10 years old. So everybody knows who Ericto is. So Ericto has a few introductory videos on dynamic programming. Just watch these videos and start doing conventional problems. So by conventional problems, what I mean is start with Fibonacci series and then just move on to problems like longest increasing subsequence and conventional problems which everyone learns while solving DP. So once you learn these conventional problems, try to write the codes for these problems and submit them on any kind of online judge. So you will find these problems everywhere, maybe on LeetCode or Interlobit or something like that. So just look at some conventional problems, solve them, and submit them. So once you know what DP is and how to implement DP, that is the time that you go to Codeforces and then you solve some 1600 or 1500 rated problems based on dynamic programming. And once you solve 4 to 5 such problems, then you can increase your level and try to solve some 17 or 1800 problems. And once you are done with 15 to 20 problems, it will like you will be really good in DP. So that is how I did DP. I never watched playlists and stuff like that. So yeah, this is what I will recommend.
Right. And actually, my first memory of DP was from a TopCoder tutorial. I think they have a nice set of blogs about dynamic programming as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is this blog called DP optimizations on TopCoder. Even I remember that.
Right. So I guess for those of you who prefer to read as opposed to maybe watching videos, I think that's a good place. And if you like to just, if you feel like if you've just started learning and you want to get a sort of back-to-back practice problems, I guess AdCoder has an educational DP.
Right. That again is really good. And also the DP problems on cscs.fi are also really good.
Right, exactly. So I think those are two problem sets that easily have about 50-60 problems between them. And I think they're nicely graded in terms of difficulty and they cover a variety of DP sub-techniques. So you could probably just keep going back to it for practice. So that's specifically DP. This one may be just slightly off topic, but while you are here, I think Rajesh was also asking how do you do ideation on your ML-based project? So I'm not sure if you're actively pursuing ML-based projects right now, but if you want to take that, then you're welcome to do that. Yeah.
I haven't done ML for around 1.5 years. I did a few basic introductory courses, but I didn't really enjoy the field. So no, I didn't really do any project based on ML. I have done just a few basic course assignments which were given to me, and that is it.
Right, cool. Okay, yeah, sure. I think ML is really popular right now. So hopefully, Rajesh, you can find some pretty solid resources by kind of looking around. I mean, since we are on a NPTEL live stream, I should probably mention that NPTEL has a bunch of really cool ML courses, and in fact, they recently launched self-paced courses. And I believe there is a ML course in their self-paced platform. So if you want to just get started even right away, I think you can do that. And they definitely have some nice guided projects to sort of get you started. All right, so I think that is pretty much all the questions so far. And given that we're going to be on the hour in about 10 minutes, I'm not sure if we have the time to necessarily walk through a complete problem and a solution. But since folks are doing graphs right now is sort of a broad theme, I think just looking at it again, not very closely, but I think I got the sense that the recent AdCoder contests have had some graph problems. So I'm not sure if, like, from your recent contests, if you have some favorite graph problems that you enjoyed solving, maybe you can just give us some pointers to problems that we can go look at and practice.
Yeah, so actually I had a problem in mind, which I thought I will discuss before giving today's contest. But after giving today's contest, I actually found a very beautiful problem there. So I changed the problem that I was going to discuss here. So I can probably tell you which problem I'm talking about. So this problem is, so I'll just share my screen.
Yep.
Right. So this problem is problem F from today's AdCoder beginner contest. So I had a different problem in mind, but I really enjoyed the problem. I really enjoyed solving this problem, and I enjoyed how beautiful the solution to this problem is. So I thought that I will discuss this problem. But since we are out of time, I don't think we will be able to discuss the entire problem. But I will definitely recommend everyone who is present here and who has basic knowledge of graphs to try and solve this problem. I'll just share the link here. So I was told that you guys know about basic graph traversal algorithms like DFS and BFS. And as beautiful as it sounds, it is a problem F but still these are the only two concepts that you need to solve this problem, right? So I will definitely recommend trying this problem out.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So my heads up on the time was just more about, yeah, I mean, feel free to maybe talk about it a little bit more. We usually end up spilling over a bit, so it's not a hard and fast thing for us. But I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure what your schedule is like. I had probably told you that it's a 1 hour session. So feel free to, feel free to talk about it a little bit more and. Maybe just in the interest of being concrete, if we can wrap up in and around 8, 5, 8, 10-ish, that would be perfect.
All right. All right. So I'll talk about the problem and then I'll probably show the code for it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Aditya, I have shared the link to the problem in the chat box. Okay, so what this problem says is that we have been provided with a simple directed graph G with n vertices and m edges, and the vertices are labeled from 1 to n, and the edges are labeled from 1 to m. And the ith edge basically connects the vertex ui and vi, and it is directed from ui to vi. So there is this guy, and he starts at a vertex and travels along the edges of the graph, which is generally what happens. So the problem is that how many vertices of the graph have the following property, that the person can start at that vertex and continue traveling indefinitely by carefully choosing a path, right? So I hope the problem is clear. The problem states how many vertices are there in the graph such that if we start at that vertex and we continue going along some of the edges by carefully choosing a path, it is possible for us to indefinitely keep traveling, right? So if someone has any doubts in understanding the problem, they are free to ask me. But if that is not the case, then I will just quickly go over the solution. So the main observation that was required to solve this problem is that you need to figure out what is the condition for someone to be traveling indefinitely, right? And the condition for that is that you should be reachable from, you should be able to reach a cycle, right? So once you reach a cycle, you can just keep going around a cycle and that will be it. So you will be traveling indefinitely, right? So the question boils down to finding those nodes from which you can start and you can end up on a cycle. So yeah, that is the problem. So that this basic observation greatly simplifies our problem. So we have to find a node, we have to find the number of nodes such that if we start at those nodes, we will finally, there is at least one path which will lead us to a cycle. Either we are already on a cycle or there is a path which will lead us to a cycle, right? So that is the problem. And
just to clarify, I think the fact that it's a directed graph makes it kind of interesting, because I suppose if it was undirected, then any connected component that is not a tree would have all the vertices qualify, right?
Sure.
Right. Okay. So but that's not true for a directed graph. So even though the underlying undirected graph may be connected, you could have vertices which are not from where you cannot reach any cycle, even though.
So the graph might not be strongly connected, right?
Right.
So this is true that if the graph was undirected, then any connected component which is not a tree would contribute to the answer, but that is not the case here, right? So we need to make some different observations. So the way we can solve this problem is that we can write a recursive DFS function which takes in a node X and which returns whether or not the node X is a part of a cycle or not, right? So there are various ways to find out whether or not a node is a part of a cycle or not. Right now, I'm not saying whether or not a node is reachable to a cycle. I'm just saying a node is a part of a cycle or not, right? So we can do a recursive DFS function and we can figure out which are the nodes which are part of a cycle, right? So these are the nodes which will definitely contribute to my answer, but there may be other nodes which will contribute to my answer, but these nodes will definitely contribute to my answer, right? So I will first find out all the nodes which belong to certain cycle. And then the problem boils down to finding all the nodes which from which I can start and reach a node which is a part of a cycle, right? And that problem can be solved by doing a multi-source BFS from all the nodes which are parts of cycle and by reversing all the edges of the graph. So what I do is I first figure out whether or not a node is a part of a cycle or not. If a node is a part of my cycle, then I push that node into my queue, right? And then I reverse all the edges of my graph and do a multi-source BFS from all the nodes which are parts of cycle. And then all the nodes which are reachable, that is the final distance of these nodes is less than infinity, these nodes will contribute to my answer. and all the nodes which have distance as infinity will never contribute to my answer, right? So yeah, this is how you basically solve the problem. I hope I was able to provide some kind of an intuition.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like you said, I agree that this is a really, really beautiful problem. It's kind of simple in retrospect, I guess, until you explained how you were going to solve it. It wasn't clear at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really elegant. I don't know if you wanted to maybe just share your code to sort of maybe just recap the approach and make it kind of concrete, or
Right. So here is the code for this problem. So basically what I do is, first of all, I write a DFS function. This is a void function which doesn't return anything, but you can write it as a Boolean function as well. So I'm maintaining this vector which says whether or not a node is a part of a cycle or not. So first of all, what I do is I make an adjacency list, and I also make a reversed adjacency list. So that is easy. And then I travel through all the nodes, and I also make a color vector. And basically color of I is -1 means that the particular node is not never visited. Color of I is equal to 0 means that this particular node is currently in the DFS stack. And if color of I is 1, then that means that the node has been removed from the stack. So if color of I is -1, then I call the DFS function from the ith node. And let's see what the DFS function is doing. So first of all, I maintain a variable is, which denotes whether or not my current node will be a part of a cycle or not. And then I change the color of my current node to 0. That is, the node is in my stack now. And then I look at the adjacency list of my node. So if I find out that the neighbor is not visited at all, then first of all, I call DFS there. And then I check whether the neighbor is a part of a cycle or not. So if the neighbor is a part of a cycle, then I will also be a part of a cycle. Like I won't necessarily be a part of a cycle, but I will either be a part of a cycle, or I will either be adjacent to a node which is a part of a cycle. But in any case, my current node will contribute to the answer, right? And the second case is that the color of the neighbor is 1. That means it has already been removed from the stack. So I will simply check whether that node is a part of a cycle or not. And or else the current node is in my stack. And this is basically how we find cycles in a directed graph. If a node is in the recursion stack and it is adjacent to me, then that means I am looking at a cycle right now. And so in that case, again, the current node will be a part of a cycle, right? So this way I find out whether or not a node is a part of a cycle or not. And basically this vector not only contains the nodes which are parts of cycle, it also contains nodes which are one distance away from a node which is a part of a cycle, but that doesn't matter because it will still contribute to my answer. And once I'm done with that, I create my multi-source BFS queue and I push in all the nodes which are cycles, which are parts of cycles. And then I simply do a multi-source BFS. And finally, I see whether or not the distance of the current node is infinity. If that is not the case, then I increment my answer by 1. Right? So this is how we calculate the answer. And I hope I was able to provide some basic intuition.
yeah, absolutely. This is brilliant. Thanks so much. And yeah, it's very, very on topic for us. So this was really cool coming in from a contest that's just finished. I think it's really fresh, and we'll probably get this added to the list of practice problems in the BFS DFS section of the course as well. So definitely stealing this one. All right. So the links in the chat, and if anybody would like to go ahead and practice, please make sure to bookmark it. It's problem F from today's @Coder beginner contest once again. All right, I think we're just about right on time. So that was a very efficient explanation. Okay, there's a quick maybe question in the chat if you have a moment to take it. How do you approach counting based problems?
Yeah. So these problems are actually my favorite kind of problems. So one thing that I would recommend is to be fluent in permutations and combinations. This is a chapter in class 11th of high school. So if you were good in permutations and combinations, then you will definitely be good here in solving counting based problems. But as far as practice is concerned, I think @Coder has a lot of problems which are based on DP plus combinatorics. And these problems, if you practice these problems, then you will surely improve. And if you want to get better, then I think the only way is to practice. And there is no shortage of problems in which you have to solve, you have to count something modulo some prime number, and just try to solve high rated problems based on that particular concept, and practice and practice. So that will be it.
Yeah, I guess that will also be the answer to another question that's come in on this stream, which I mean, I think I should pass it on to you because it's just Ajinkya saying, how do you even see all this in terms of your approach to the solutions? I usually say that when we see folks come up with solutions just like that, it's usually a lot of experience and practice that goes behind it. But if you have something more concrete to say about it, feel free.
Yeah, so it almost never happens that with me, it almost never happens that I discover something new during a contest. Most of the times when I am quickly able to solve a problem, it is because I have done a similar problem in the past while practicing or while doing another contest. So yeah, there is no magic behind it. Most of the times it is the case that people have solved similar problems before, and it almost never happens that you discover a new technique by yourself while giving a contest, right? So it is all practice, and it might seem that the person is doing things very easily, but behind the scenes I'm sure that that particular guy has put in a lot of efforts while practicing, right? So yeah, the key to it is solving lots and lots of problems with various difficulty levels and involving various topics.
Yeah, exactly. I think that just goes back to something we said earlier in the stream about sort of not boxing yourself into practicing topics wise, which may seem like a very tempting and natural thing to do because I think from school we have been trained into, studying things chapter wise, but in a contest, you're never really told, what the approach is going to be. So even when you're practicing, if you kind of simulate that sort of an environment by practicing in a topic oblivious way, so not just not identifying the topic in advance, I think that's going to really help. And other than that, of course, the quantity of practice plays a huge role as well. So I think it's really about investing that kind of time. Rajesh is asking, how should you take care of time complexity while doing the programming? So I suppose you do start off by looking at the constraints and you quickly reverse engineer what the target complexity should be. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, so almost everyone does the same thing. So before thinking about a solution, I always recommend you look at the constraints. And it is a well-known fact that in 1 second, a basic computer can perform around 10 to the 8 operations. So after looking at the constraints, it becomes fairly obvious, or if not obvious, then there are just a few choices of time complexities that you have. And for example, if n is up to 10 to the 5, then you have a few choices like n log n root n, etc. But as n increases to 10 to the 6, then you really just have two choices, either O of n or O of n log n. And if n is really small, for example, up to 8 or 10, then you can do something like O of n factorial. And if n is up to around 20 to 25, then you can do something on the lines of O of 2 to the n or things like that. But that is really basic. So yeah, what I would recommend is you always look at the constraints before thinking of a solution.
Right, exactly. And I think it also helps to have some sense of how to analyze your own code for understanding its time complexity. So if that's something that you're not comfortable with yet, I think it would be nice to sort of go through the standard time complexity analysis for standard implementations of standard programs. And also occasionally you may be writing. So for instance, in DP, you'll probably be coming up with your own recurrences and so on. So just to be able to see your code or your approach, even at the pen and paper stage, and to be able to anticipate and maybe even rule out approaches because you know already that it's going to be too expensive, will save you the time from coding it and then getting a TLE, I suppose.
Right, right.
Yeah, cool. All right. So I think we've pretty much covered hopefully most of the questions that came in. I'm really sorry if I missed out on something, but for those of you who are listening and you're hopefully a part of the course, you can continue the conversation on Discord. And if you have a pressing question that's specifically for Harisam, then I will try to get it across and maybe pass on a response back to you. But otherwise, general questions about either the materials in the course or general topics, contests you're hopefully upsolving and things like that, continue to be welcome on the Discord server. So please join us there, and we'll see you back next week. Once again, thanks very much, Harisam, for joining us. I don't know if you want to drop a link to your YouTube channel for whatever it's worth, and we'll pass that on to the larger group at Discord. Actually, I have it, so I will maybe share it on Discord, but just in case you wanted to do that in the chat, then
All right, I'll just do it.
yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so I have shared the link to my channel. So mostly on my channel, what you will get is the solutions to recent Codeforces rounds. And also there will be a few live sessions, which I do. And if you are interested in joining my live sessions, then you can join my Discord server as well. And the link to that will be in the description of any of my YouTube videos. If you want to join, you can check that out.
Yeah, I actually forgot to mention that, but yeah, I mean, I think your Discord server is also a really cool group of CP enthusiasts, and usually there are notifications for the live streams. That's really handy. So yeah, please do join. If you're taking your CP journey seriously, I think this is going to be really useful. Jay, the Discord link. So I don't know which one, but the one for the NPTEL course you can find from the NPTEL course website, and Harisham's Discord, I think you can get it from his YouTube channel. I guess, all right. I don't know if, maybe just this really one last question, sneak it in. So question about how many problems should I practice every day as a beginner? Did you have a set sort of a number, or again, was it more fluid in terms of, or maybe how much time do you recommend practicing, just as a ballpark?
Right. So I don't recommend keeping a target number. So I will definitely recommend to go for quality over quantity. So, but it so happens that when you are solving problems regularly, then you don't even realize, but you solve at least 70 to 80 problems per month. And that happens like if you are being fluid as well. So just try to solve problems which are good in quality, and don't go for quantity, and quantity will come on its own. So you will realize that once you just solve problems which are difficult for you, and you keep doing it, then the number will gradually increase on its own. So don't focus a lot on ratings and numbers, but instead focus on the quality of problems that you are solving. Solving 10 problems a day is much worse than solving just one quality problem a day, according to me.
Right, makes sense. I think that is definitely tactically useful. So yeah, as long as I guess you're doing consistent practice and you're pushing the boundaries of what I think your practice is probably going well. Yeah. So that's kind of an overall takeaway, I guess. So yeah. All right then. So I guess on that note, maybe we can call this a wrap. Once again, thanks so much for joining us, and thanks to everybody in the audience who made it on Zoom as well as on the YouTube stream. We'll be back next week to talk about the flow assignment problems, but we call it a day here. So thanks again, Harisam. Hope to keep in touch and maybe see you again soon.
My pleasure. Thanks a lot for having me.
All right. So good night, everybody, and bye for now.
All right.
So, Mr. Karthik, I think we can wrap up the live stream as well as close the session.
Thank you, ma'am.
Right. Thanks very much. Good night for now.
Good night, ma'am. Thank you.